Number 5. MiG-21. The first ever truly modern second-generation jet fighter created by the Soviet Union was the MiG-21. Testing for the aircraft began in the year 1956 and was created by the Mikoyan Gurevich Design Bureau. 4 years later, the first version was completed and entered into service. The jet was supersonic and was a large interceptor aircraft. Development of the craft began in the early 1950s after Mikoyan OKB completed his preliminary design study for the YE-1 prototype. However, this project was reworked quickly after the engine was determined to be too weak. After many other prototypes and changes were made, the MiG-21 was created. This turned out to be the very first successful aircraft created by the Soviet Union, combining interceptor and fighter characteristics into one single aircraft. The Soviet designers came up with a unique tailed delta configuration, and it had a very thin delta wing. This design gave the aircraft high speed, maneuverability, adequate takeoff and landing characteristics, as well as sufficient medium-altitude performance. Due to its superior engineering, this fighter jet was used by 60 different countries across 4 continents. Even today, 6 decades after its maiden flight, this aircraft still serves multiple nations. The MiG-21 made aviation records and even became the most produced supersonic jet aircraft in aviation history. It was also used heavily throughout the Korean War, and it previously held the record for the longest production run of any single combat aircraft. However, that record has now been smashed by the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle and the General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon. Number 4. Vacuum bombs. Russia has one of the most advanced military forces on the planet, and they have some truly horrifying weapons at their disposal. One of these dangerous war machines is known as a thermobaric vacuum bomb, and could be extremely devastating if it were to be used. When Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, announced the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, not many expected resistance to last. However, as the fight rages on today, it seems that Putin's troops are now resorting to more intense strategies. One of these tactics included heavy bombardment of Ukrainian cities, causing massive explosions and resulting in many deaths. Even though Russia initially promised that civilians would not be the target of such weapons, it seems as though they have opted to bomb areas in Ukraine in order to grind down Ukrainian resistance. Many civilian casualties have already been reported, and this has led to a large wave of migration of desperate families to move westwards so they can escape the bloody battlefield. It seems like Putin will stop at nothing in order to meet his objective and will do anything he can to squash resistance from the Ukrainian armed forces. The weapon that many are most concerned about, though, is the vacuum bomb. This device is capable of sucking in oxygen to create a high-temperature explosion. The use of such a destructive weapon is actually banned by the Geneva Convention. However, Ukrainian ambassador to the US, Oksana Markarova, claims that Russia has already detonated one of these bombs. Vacuum bombs are said to be some of the most lethal non-nuclear weapons in existence, and the blast waves that they create are said to be powerful enough to vaporize human bodies. Although even people outside the initial blast zone are still at risk for invisible injuries as a result. According to a CIA study, these injuries could include crushed inner ear organs, burst eardrums, ruptured lungs and internal organs, as well as severe concussions and possibly even blindness. In reality, the use of such a weapon is actually legal so long as they're targeted towards military personnel and not civilians. Apparently, the use of vacuum bombs is discouraged, but on the battlefield, these weapons of mass destruction are not off the table. And as war continues between Russia and Ukraine, the use of chemical and biological weapons could very well come into play. Putin seems to be willing to take extreme measures in order to secure victory against Ukraine, so who knows what other deadly tricks he may have up his sleeve in the days to come. Number 3. Poseidon nuclear torpedo. Previously known to the Russian military under the codename Status 6, the Poseidon is a nuclear-powered autonomous underwater vehicle that is under development by Rubin Design Bureau. This dangerous weapon is capable of delivering both nuclear and conventional payloads. Announced by Russia's President Vladimir Putin on March 1, 2018, they're currently developing a total of 6 new strategic weapons, and the Poseidon is one of them. This new war machine was accidentally leaked to the public after it was revealed by mistake on the Russian NTV television channel in November 2015. During a live speech given by Putin, while denouncing America's claims of having defensive missile technology, he spilled the beans on the project. The US government at the time was not sure if the declaration was disinformation or if it was a warning signal, but the CIA later concluded that the leak of information was in fact intentional. According to the Pentagon, the first test launch took place on November 27, 2016 in the Arctic Ocean. Then in 2018, the Nuclear Posture Review acknowledged the development of Russia's nuclear-powered torpedo. It was also announced in January of 2019 that the Russian Navy planned to create at least 30 of these unmanned underwater vehicles, which would be deployed on 4 submarines as they served in the Russian Northern Fleet and the Pacific Fleet. As a power move, the Russian Defense Ministry released a video to the public in February 2019 showing a test launch of a Poseidon by a B-90 Sarov special-purpose submarine. It's been confirmed that these weapons were created as a response to U.S. withdrawal from the ABM Treaty treaty, and also to increase the chances of Russia overcoming the US missile defense systems. Even if these nuclear torpedoes were to miss their target, radiation would still contaminate a large area of space. Playing into this, the Poseidon is also speculated to be equipped with a cobalt bomb. If you're unfamiliar with this type of weapon, it's a type of salted bomb which is designed to produce large amounts of radioactive fallout and would most likely be used in the event of radiological warfare. The torpedo-shaped robotic mini-submarine is rumored to be able to travel at speeds of around 185 kilometers per hour and has a range of about 10,000 kilometers. It's also suggested that the maximum depth this weapon could reach is roughly 1,000 meters. The missile is roughly 1.6 to 2 meters in diameter and is estimated at 24 meters long. The warhead alone has a diameter of 1.5 meters and is 4 meters in length, which would give it a volume of likely 7 cubic meters. Some reports suggest that the yield of this beast could be upwards of 100 megatons. However, since this project is mostly top secret, we don't know for sure just how powerful it is. One thing is for certain though, if the US wants to be the target of one of these Poseidon nuclear torpedoes, we'd be likely having a rough time if everything worked out for the Russians. Would you rather explore the depths of the ocean with your own eyes from the inside of a submarine, or enjoy the views you'd see from the deck of a cruise ship? Let us know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Number 2. Kirov-class battlecruiser. Even though Russia only engineered a total of 4 Kirov-class battlecruisers, they're still a major threat. These ships are nuclear-powered and are specifically designed to annihilate American aircraft carriers. They're also capable of defending themselves with aircraft missiles and have multiple ways of detecting enemy targets with the help of satellite feeds and an onboard helicopter. Each battleship carries a total of 20 supersonic missiles that can carry 1,653-pound warheads approximately 300 miles. These vessels are the heaviest and largest surface combatant warships in the entire world. In comparison to modern-day warships, they're second in size only to giant aircraft carriers, and they're similar to battleships used throughout the World War I era. When this class of battlecruiser first came online during the 1970s and 1980s, America had to bring back 4 of their Iowa-class battleships in order to defend themselves against the Soviets. Since bigger ships can carry more missiles, the Russian threat seemed imminent, and it makes sense that the US would do everything they could in their power to oppose them. Plans for these war machines began in June of 1973, with the first ship not being completed until December 1980. The ship made its first appearance in 1981, but during its second deployment, it suffered a reactor accident in 1990 in the Mediterranean Sea. Oddly enough, repairs were never done on the craft, and it was placed in reserve until it was ultimately scrapped in 2021. Luckily, the Russian Navy had 3 other Kirov-class battlecruisers at their disposal. The second of the warships were commissioned in 1984 and was assigned to the Pacific Fleet. However, this ship became inactive in 1994, and it was eventually decommissioned only 4 years later. This vessel is set to be completely dismantled on November 30th, 2025. Today, only 2 of these behemoths remain in operation. The third ship entered service in 1988 and was designated to the Northern Fleet of the Russian Navy. It was originally called Kalinin, but was renamed Admiral Nakhimov in 1992. Like the first 2 battlecruisers, it was briefly mothballed or decommissioned in 1999, but was eventually reactivated in 2005. Today, the vessel is undergoing modernization and overhaul at Severodvinsk shipyard and is rumored to be finished sometime in 2022. However, there's not been any news released about this so far and is most likely still being worked on by the Soviets. The fourth and final battlecruiser, formerly known as the Yuri Andropov, was not commissioned until 1998. Later, the ship's name was changed to Peter Veliky, apparently named after Peter the Great, in 1992. This is the only ship of its kind to still be in service to this day. It currently serves as a flagship to Russia's Northern Fleet. With the Soviet military continuously trying to improve their war machines, these Kirov-class battlecruisers could very well be fitted with even more deadly weapons in the future. At some point, these vessels could even have drones or lasers which could be extremely effective against their enemies. Number 1. Mi-28NM. In 1972, Russia began working on plans to create a unique type of attack helicopter called the Mi-28 that would be capable of transport. This new design reduced the amount of space inside the vessel, meaning that it would only be able to carry 3 troops instead of the previous model's ability to carry 8 troops. The cabin was omitted in order to provide better overall speed and performance. The design team was led by Marat Shevchenko in 1980, and an initial engineering plan and mock-up were accepted by the Russian government in 1981. The first ever prototype was built and began test flights in 1982, and after some small adjustments, the newer model was completed in 1983. Development of the Mi-28 was of lower priority from 1984 to 1988 because the Kamov Ka-50 was chosen by the Air Force due to it being a bit more advanced at the time, and they used it as their new anti-tank helicopter. However, in January of 1988, they got right back to designing the Mi-28, and they began to create more powerful engines. Finally, after many years and different variants were constructed and tested, the 5th generation derivative named the Mi-28NM was finished in October 2020. This helicopter is dangerous, and with the emergence of more advanced technology, the aircraft was fitted with new cutting-edge sensors which allow it to conduct night operations. It also uses the NO-25E radar, which allows the helicopter to have a circular view and also gives the crew the capability of receiving radar images of the terrain. This aircraft also had extended flight range as well as advanced weapons control systems. It has some of the capabilities of a fighter jet and can get up to speeds of about 300 kilometers per hour, and it can also travel distances of about 450 kilometers. The supersonic 9M120 Ataka V missile is the standard missile armament on these vehicles, and they use a system called radio beam riding guidance, which allows a missile to be directed using a laser beam or radar. And because of Russia's willingness to deploy military troops abroad, the aircraft's VK2500P01PS engine is able to operate in harsh climates. It can perform just as well in temperate climates as it can in desert areas with extremely high temperatures. Upgraded electronics allow pilots of these crafts to be able to receive target locations from intelligence units and other advanced aircraft designers to significantly increase the effectiveness of interaction with ground forces. As a result of this, those detected targets can easily be destroyed almost immediately. This new design is all part of Russia's plan to modernize their attack helicopters. In the coming years, even more modernized variations of the Mi-28NM could be in development, and when those plans are brought into fruition, we may be in trouble. Which of these dangerous weapons scares you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time for more amazing videos right here on American Eye.